recording. Morning. For the record, I'm Chris Young, Chair of the HDC Sign Advisory Council. Let's confirm access. Members, please respond with an aye when I call your name. Mark Catone.
Aye.
Ben Norman.
Aye.
Paul Wolf.
Here. Aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
And for staff, Esmeralda Martinez.
Here.
Great. This open meeting of the HDC Sign Advisory Council is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020. That order, posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to convene remotely so long as public access to deliberations is reasonably provided. This meeting is convening via Zoom with video and audio recording, and we're being broadcast on the town's YouTube channel. We will feature public comment. Materials provided to members for the meeting or provided during the meeting are, unless otherwise noted, available on the town's website. During the meeting, I'll introduce agenda topics and speakers. Please remember to mute your Zoom audio until your name is called, and let's direct comments and questions through the chair to avoid crosstalk and make taking of minutes easier. Votes will be conducted by roll call. Let's call the meeting to order at 9:03 on Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. Do we have a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
Thanks, Ben.
Second.
Thanks, Mark. Kevin, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Paul? Paul, are you in favor of the
He's
agenda?
muted.
Okay. Mark, are you in favor?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
And I am as well. We'll approve the agenda. We received minutes. Did everybody have a chance to review those, and do we have a motion to approve them?
Move to approve.
Thanks, Paul. Anybody want to second that? Thanks. Was that Kevin? Thank you.
Yeah.
Ben, did you
Aye.
approve? Mark,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
and I as well. All right. Let's move on to, is there anybody here for general public comment not related to an agenda item? Seeing none, let's move on to the preliminary discussion of the garden club signage.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I don't know if I had sent you the amended agenda.
Oh.
Town had requested a preliminary discussion on QR codes. I do not see anyone here. Florencia was going to be here, but I can kind of show you what they are thinking, and maybe if we can get your input, or we can hold it off for the next meeting.
So that would be above garden club is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. I suppose if that's the posted agenda, let's follow it. What do we have for? QR
So she didn't give me much information what these QR codes are going to be for, but I guess they'll be posted on the polls she mentioned. And they were thinking, to be honest, I don't know what material they were thinking of using, but then she said they might just use stickers. But I figured I'd bring it up to your attention because these are going to be all over town.
Oof.
Okay. So, but we don't know. Sizes.
I don't know specific details at the moment, but I just wanted to bring it up to your attention.
Okay.
So maybe if I could jump in, if that's okay. I think there's a list of things that we all would want to know.
Okay.
Locations,
Okay.
materiality, size. What are they? I'm guessing, but I don't know for sure.
What's the message? Yeah.
Yeah. Are these permanent? Are these a temporary? Am I missing anything else, guys, in terms of being able to have a thoughtful discussion about these when the
You
time?
mentioned locations?
Yes.
I know, okay. Yeah, locations would be big.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure Mark's not opposed to the orange, but
All right. Yeah.
This is all
That's-
good information that I will pass along to her.
Okay. I'd say we hold any further discussion until we have the appropriate information in front of us.
Perfect.
Great.
I'll second that.
All right. Thanks. Being a preliminary discussion, We don't need to formally vote, do we? I think
Okay,
we're
good.
No,
let's move on to the garden club signage.
Okay, well, thank you. Is it all right if I talk now?
Yes, please do.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I'm Marianne Wasick, and I'm with the Nantucket Garden Club, and I'm also here with Emily Molden from the Land Council. The Land Council and the Garden Club are working on a joint project. It's a conservation commendation that we plan to give to members of the community or entities within the community that are demonstrating sound practices in terms of gardening and moving things in the direction that we would like in terms of reduced water usage, pollinators, eco-friendly in terms of rain gardens that will help to absorb some of the coastal flooding that we have, different areas. So we want to, in order to accommodate these folks, give them something that they can place in their garden. So before we got too far along with this, we thought we could have a discussion with you to show you some of the things that we might be thinking about. And then when we get some feedback from you, we'll actually formalize it and then come back here for an approval. So we have a sketch. We don't have sizes or anything else like that, because those are the kinds of things we're looking for some guidance from you. So Emily, if you could just show everyone here what we have so far. We're thinking of something fairly small, maybe 8.5, 9 inches by 7 inches that could be placed in a garden. Now, many of these may be in private spaces, but it's possible that they could be visible from the street on a town garden.
Sure, thanks, Marianne. Good morning, everyone. So as Marianne said, we've been considering some different options and looking around at what other organizations have used in similar instances for signs that would go in someone's yard or garden. And there's quite a lot of options out there, which is why we thought we would start with speaking to all of you. There are, I have one example here. This is an organization out west, the Xerces Society, that ends up selling folks these, it's kind of a hard composite sign, and it comes with a couple of little holes so folks can either affix it to a post or such in their garden that obviously has some decoration and some text on. And then there's also things as simple as like this is just a sort of an aluminum medallion that the Land Council has used before to put on posts demarcating where our conservation restriction boundaries are. That also could have some text and an image or a logo on it that could be affixed to some kind of a post. Obviously, it's a lot smaller. So we've kind of been considering a few different options. And as Marianne suggested, we have a local artist working on a design for us that essentially is a arrangement of flowers with an image of the island. And then we would consider just having some simple text that said something like conservation commendation and our organization's names printed on there as well. So I think, as Marianne said, we don't necessarily know if these would mostly end up in private areas where they couldn't be seen, but it's possible that they would be in locations where folks could see them. So we weren't sure how you would handle something like that. And we're really interested in just your initial input and feedback, any thoughts you might have to help guide us along the way.
All right. Thanks for introducing us to that idea. I'll just go down the list of members and get their input for you. Paul, do you want to start?
yeah, I think I'd like a little more information about how many of these are going to be out there, and are they only in private residences, or are they in business?
Well, I think there would be a combination of both. For example, we're working with the salt marsh, a coastal resilient garden there. It's, conceivable that would be a place for it. So to give you an example.
It appears to me that the smaller one, both of these are relatively small, but the smaller is the most appropriate. And so long as they're not out on the street or on the fence in front of the house, I think I don't think I have any problem with it.
Thanks. Mark?
Yeah, probably I'd echo Paul's comments. I don't know, I have quite clarity as what these look like or how many there are or exactly how visible they'll be. I don't know that I have great concern. However, it seems like these are going to be sort of inobtrusive. Looks like they're just basically marking gardens. But hopefully they'll come back with a little more information. We can get more comfortable with it, but it doesn't seem terribly concerning at the moment. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Ben?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. And, I think if it can stay under 1 square foot, there's a certain Chris, I'm kind of questioning that to you. Is that the square foot fees fall under a certain kind of unregulated situation?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I was thinking along the lines of saying that we should make sure that they don't end up as freestanding signs. In other words, they should follow the guidelines needing to be attached to a structure or a fence. And to Paul's point, I don't think we want it on a fence on Main Street facing the sidewalk, something like that. So that's sort of where.
I think, but at a certain point, we have to say okay, people put up their little sign saying what each plant is. I planted my carrots here, I planted my whatever there. We don't regulate those things. So why are we going to regulate a little plaque that says I planted a pollinator garden? I'm pretty benign to this as long as it's small and well done, which I'm sure it will be. So.
Right. Kevin, do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with Paul as far as the smaller size goes. I would tend to treat them, I guess, similar to the Preservation Trust signs, and I would keep them to 1, maybe 2 colors at the most. And if they are on a post, I'd regulate the height of the post to something that, is reasonable in that situation. That's all.
All right, great. Well, I think Emily and Marianne, do you guys have a sense of what we're thinking?
Yes, absolutely. Really appreciate it.
It's very
Thank you.
helpful.
Yes, we'll be back with something more concrete. Thank you for your time.
Sure.
All right, guys. Next up, at 13 Center Street LLC projecting sign. All right.
Yeah, hi there. My name is Thomas. We have had a business down at Old South Wharf for the past couple of years. We're relocating to 13 Center Street. I had a sign approved by you guys down on Old South Wharf a few years ago. That was a relatively simple sign. Moving to town, wanted to kind of connect with you guys for a preliminary discussion before I went and had this sign made and carved. If it's okay with you guys, could I share my screen to show you kind of what I'm thinking for my proposed sign? We're running slightly behind in terms of these signs take a period of time to make, and they need to dry, etc. So I wanted to kind of get an indication as to what might be able to get approved before so I can kind of get it in the works. Let me just share my screen. Oops, sorry about that. That's not working. One moment, sorry.
All right, Esmeralda, do you have to allow permission to share screen? You might have to do that.
I do not. He should be able to share.
Okay. Weirdly, it's not. Let's see. Hopefully this is correct. Okay, one moment. So sorry about this. Okay.
Well, I would say that it's a little bit backwards what we're doing here today with this application, in that we wouldn't be able to give you a formal approval. If you proceed, it would be at your own risk.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely, I fully understand that. It's just given my time constraints, this is a risk that I'm gonna have to take. I just want to make sure that I'm going in the right direction. So if you can see here, this is it would be there are two. I had a question about shapes as well, which is whether you guys had a preference to shape of a sign that would be on Center Street. I have 2 options here. Both seem to be quite traditional, but I wasn't sure if you guys had a preference.
all right.
To the
Let me
direction.
ask a few of the basic questions. What's the size? Is this a projecting sign? It says.
Yeah, this is a projecting sign that would be, the proposed size would be 18 by 34 inches on 2-inch thick board.
Okay, so that, okay, doing pretty close to 5. Is 13 Center Street in the Petticoat Row?
Yeah, so I actually have if I can share another screen with you, I can show you the front of the store. It's one to the right of Pepper's. It's the right. I can show you kind of what the front of the older store looked like if you'd be interested. So you can see where the sign would go.
What was the? You know,
it was Sherry's place.
Okay.
So if we look here, you can
There we go.
see the sign location would go right. The sign would hang right here, and it becomes a projecting sign. And those sign dimensions are the same as I had the someone from Pepper Fraser measure the other signs, and that seemed about in fitting with the other sizes of on the street, and certainly not bigger than any of them.
Okay, I'll run down. Kevin, would you like first point on this one?
Sure. It's a little hard to tell the scale compared to the others. I know the Fraser sign is larger than all the others. So size-wise, I guess my comment is it should, based upon what I can see now, it should be the same size as the one that's there. It should hang at the same location.
So there currently isn't one there because those tenants have left.
Well, you just showed me a picture of one with the sign there, so whatever that.
It'd be very difficult to know what that is because the pole is gone and the sign is gone. So the only reference point that we'll have is the other stores on the street.
Yeah, that may be true, but you can look in the file and see what was approved for the previous owner.
Okay.
The landlord for the building has refused to do a master sign plan. And if we had a master sign plan in place, you would find your job a whole lot easier, frankly.
Okay.
So you may remind Fraser to get with that. Anyway, I think either one of the borders is fine. They're perhaps both a little fussy for the other signs in that block. I think you have to keep in mind that building reads as one. So the more continuity between the signs, in my mind, the better the whole building looks. That I think typographically is fine. Color's a little hard to tell off the screen, but I guess those are my comments for now.
Do you mind if I just ask one more quick question while I have you guys? Which is I know that there's a paint color guide, and I wasn't sure if that paint color guide related to signage as well, or if that was the exterior of buildings.
I think. Oh, go ahead,
Chris.
I was going to say, I think there's a lot of latitude with paint colors. It's really muted or specifically trying to avoid bright colors. So this appears to be sort of an olive green,
Right.
something that would be approvable.
Okay.
So let's continue down. Paul, do you have any thoughts?
No, I can't add to anything that's already been said.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, I'd agree with what's been said as well.
All right, and Ben.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said. I just procedurally, I feel pretty uncomfortable with the way this is going. I feel like we're allowing somebody feedback for an application that hasn't been submitted, and likely to be manufactured without an approval. So generally, I think this is not a way we should conduct business.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think that it's on the agenda, so we're discussing it, but we'll try to avoid this in the future. So there certainly will be a risk if you go ahead and make this sign. There's no guarantee it's going to be.
Understood. Yeah, understood. Yeah, and while we are also all on here, could I ask you, let me show you the front of the shop one more time, because it also seems there is a, and I think this is a reasonable question, what I'm going to ask here. These shops all seem to have plaques out front of them. Is this, again, something that would, that people get permission from the HDC to put something in the plaque location?
Yes, traditionally, there's been 2 signs for each shop there. It is not meant to be an entirely different message. They're really meant to be sort of a wall sign in conjunction with a projecting sign. So you'd have to apply for that.
Yeah.
And
so is the preference that is also a carved sign?
Painted is wood is the key. So that
Okay.
everything's no metal, plastics, vinyl, letters, or anything like that. So, but I would suggest on that one, maybe come back in with an application for you.
Absolutely, yeah, no problem.
On
No
that.
problem at all. Thank you for your time, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think the last thing I just want to reiterate what Kevin was saying. You said that the armature was gone. There is a theme on this particular block that all the armature should be the same. So don't come back with a pole that has a ship's model on it or something like that. You have to try to make your sign read like all of the other signs on that.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't fully know if that's the case. The poles all seem to be different on this building.
Okay, well,
is there one that is there a style that you prefer?
I would say that you're located, as Kevin pointed out, there's been a lot of discussion on this building, and we're trying to bring it back to where it was meant to be as a unified storefront or facade. So I would go to the ones that are sort of right in line with you there, to the right of the picture you're showing.
Okay. Cool.
And this has to go through the formal review, but I think that your shop and then the next couple to the right seem to be sort of really in succession with each other. So personally, I think they should be signs of the same size and using the same, hung at the same height and using the same bracketry. So
right, I agree with that, of course. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time, guys.
All right. Thanks. All right, Esmeralda, let's move on to the old business, which is Mass Audubon. Do we have Sam on the line?
I am on the line.
Hi, Sam. All right, so is there anything new to discuss from your point of view, or are you looking for feedback from us after our visit to Pulpit Road?
Yeah, nothing to share on my end. I think it was just the outcome of your site visit. And I know that last time we talked about signs that when there's that strip in between the bike path and the road, is that town or not, and placement of signs on that was kind of a question. So, but I think that was it.
Okay, thanks. Ben, do you want to start the conversation?
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't here at the last meeting. So, but I did happen to drive out Pulpit Road. I noticed some of those little flaggies. You know, I think they need to be on your property. They can't be on town property without, you know, an approval with town. So, you know, I think them spread, you know, I noticed the flags. I seem to be fine. Kind of, I didn't think it was gonna be a bother, but other than just, you got to have it on your property, unless you have an approval through town to put them on their property.
Yeah, can I respond to that, Ben?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Chris, go ahead.
You have the floor, Sam.
Okay. Yeah, I think the question was, I wasn't aware that the area between the bike path and the road was town property. But of course, yes, I can look to seat them on the other side of the bike path, closer to the, you know, our property in the interior.
Okay, excellent. Paul?
I have no questions, Chris.
Okay. Mark?
I would agree with what has been said. No further questions.
All right, thanks. And Kevin?
I was the one who submitted the pictures, and I have to be like in this example here, these signs should be back, in my opinion. They should be out of the right of way. They should be back against the brush. I think this number one is probably in the right of way, and it's I don't see the if the purpose is to keep hunters away, I'm not exactly sure how this does it, but anyway, regardless, I think any of these signs need to be back where the backside is up against the brush. We really don't need to see this thing from all four sides, certainly the maybe three. You can go on to the next one. I just took a few as examples. Here we have a stick. I don't see how you can possibly hunt on 3 feet of land right here. I think it's a highly inappropriate place for a sign, and I don't think it should be there at all. I think the next one is a sign that's stuck in the middle of the pathway. Again, this would, in my opinion, would need to move up the driveway, back up against the brush. So you see the sign when you turn in there, I guess, trying to park. So I sort of walked away with most of these in a short little strip. In my mind, were not appropriate locations, and I think they just need to be a little bit more sensitively placed to be more discreet. And I'd really recommend that since hunting season really is over, except for maybe rabbit and crow, I think we have the time to get these in the right location. And I'd recommend that we look at it again with slightly modified locations. That's all.
All right. I think that, Sam, you've addressed the putting these too close to the road. Do you understand Kevin's point? Or, if we were to say, I don't think there's the intention here to oversign the properties or put your signs in the wrong places. I'm appreciating that you've been back to the meeting a few times with this. Putting these signs back up against the brush, back off of the medians, not in front of that barrier, for example. That's the one that jumped out at me, was where that signpost was in front of the barrier by Quidnet Pond. Or Signage Pond. I felt that was, just it didn't look right to me when I drove down the road. What's your timing on this? I know you've been anxious to get this done. How, if we needed to have these all pushed back and markers, the locations better understood, what about that? How could we?
Sure. So, to respond to Kevin's comments, I do understand that pushing back to the median, and I think the first picture, I think I see what you're saying. That intersection, I thought, I was like, I'm gonna mark the locations and then we'll work through together what's appropriate. So I can see that being, a little too close and needing to be further into the brush. And I think with these signs, it's not necessarily that each of the signs is going to stop a hunter, or that a hunter is going to park right in front of that sign and try to enter our property. It's just we have a legal requirement to mark the extent of our boundaries. So if somebody were to enter from another location, they're able to know that they're on Audubon property and kind of orient themselves to our land rules. So I get as well with picture number 2. In this area, it's a bit contentious. We're currently in the midst, for those that know of the seawall, the revetment on the other side of this town pullout was actually an unauthorized structure that was built on our property by the town of Nantucket. And so we feel that it's appropriate to clearly mark our boundaries in this area to avoid any future encroachment on our property. But I understand having it in front of that barrier isn't really appropriate. So maybe could I propose putting putting it on the other side of the barrier, or maybe even having it lower to the ground, but that area is sensitive because of the ongoing issues there. But, did I address your comments or questions?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a read on sort of the process that we're going to follow here. Does anybody else on the board want to speak up on this? I'll just sort of open it up to the board members.
Chris, this is Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
I don't know this, but my guess is that that road is technically 40 feet wide. And I don't know how far each side is, but I would suggest that the Audubon people check with the town or the DPW or find out exactly where the edge of the road is. And I think you're going to find it, putting it back. They'll take care of putting it back by the brush. The prior picture shows telephone poles that are back by the edge of the brush. And I'm sure they're not on the road. That's all.
All right, thanks. Anybody else have anything else to add? Or do we want to make a, it's like, option would be make a motion to hold for more revisions for more clarity. We could deny, or we could make a motion to approve, perhaps with some language.
I'll try one. Make a motion to hold for revisions and a second site visit to review the locations.
Okay,
Second,
that's been seconded. Do we, Paul, or excuse me, Mark, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Ben?
Aye.
And Kevin, I assume you're in favor.
Aye.
And Paul?
aye.
Okay. Okay, so I think going away, we're down to basically the location at what we're putting in place. Seems like only the
Chris,
last.
you're breaking up.
Oh, you guys hear me okay? Am I still breaking up?
Now,
Nope.
You're fine.
Okay, so I was just saying to Sam, it sounds like we're down to just marking the locations appropriately, so they're, you understood what concerns were, correct?
So, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just processing. Wasn't exactly how I expected this to go, but that's okay. Would the committee be able to provide the numbers or the posts that are in question? Because it just takes quite a bit of time to revisit all 18 of those posts and hammer them in. So it'd be really helpful to know which of those 18 are the problematic ones that need to be revisited.
I can, I guess, respond a little bit, Sam. I guess I was a little bit alarmed and somewhat disappointed on the Pulpus Road ones that I didn't go look at the other ones because I figured they would be just as, just as egregious. And I guess I feel like we should get this right because they're going to be there for a long time. I know it takes a lot of work, but I'm sure you can appreciate we're going to have to go back around as well. So I have not looked at all of them other than this particular stretch which was of most concern to me going into it. But so I simply don't know where the other ones are. I just assume that they're similar. I don't know if that helps you or not.
No, I think for me, I think as long as you can show that they're on your property, I'm good. But you can't put them on town property without town allowing you to. So that's where I'm at with them.
Yeah, I think that's probably I think that if you went to the property line, you would be out of the way that we're concerned with. Damn, it seems, and putting it, behind a fence, for example, instead of prominently in front of it is just a visual concern that we have. And
Sure, sure. And if you were to scroll back up though, and I'm just trying to, I'm kind of drawing comparisons and working off examples that have been set for me. You can see that the land bank sign is placed in front of this split rail fence here. So I'm just, yeah, but I guess.
I was looking for that the traffic barrier or whatever you want to call it by Signage.
Oh, okay.
So I guess it's hard to give you a specific instruction for every single location, but the general idea is, make them as subtle as possible. Make sure they're on your property. Hopefully they'll do the job they're intended to do and mark your boundaries and not do the job of calling more attention than necessary to them. So that's
Okay.
Yeah, I think Sam, that the land bank and Conservation Foundation have not gotten approval for any of theirs. However, by and large, I think they are pushed up against the brush, and I think it's also just a huge maintenance issue if they stick out in the public like that, because they've all got to get mowed around and all that stuff. So if you see one of the land banks or conservation foundations that is inappropriate, we should address it with them. But I think just because they've done it, in my mind, doesn't fully open up the door to do what they did. I would rather get it right with you guys and be able to point to a good example than just a random one.
Sure. No, I understand that. I guess I'm just explaining why it's been such a process to cite the locations, because I'm just working off of the next best example.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think of course, I'll look to move them back. And I guess, who did you recommend reaching out to with the town in terms of establishing where the right of way ends?
I'd maybe start with Erica. She could point you in the right direction. Erica down at Town Administration. Would you say, Chris?
I was thinking somebody in the DPW, but it's really more, there's got to be maps that show that answer. Well, I haven't had to actually look that up for this extensive piece of property, but yeah, I would say maybe the DPW should probably also have the answer to how wide their roadway network is. And Sam, I also wanted to say thank you for going through the process. I realize that when you hear that Conservation Foundation hasn't been through this process and yet they have signs everywhere, we realize that you're going through something that they didn't, and I appreciate that. So I think we all do, and we definitely don't want to set precedents that we have to fight later. So that's why we're trying to get this one right. And thanks again.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the thought, and I'm sorry if some of my frustration shows through. I'm the only staff member on island, so it's just to spend 2 or 3 hours resetting these signs, it takes a lot of time and effort. So that's all, and thank you for working with me to get this right.
I guess if, depending on what the other folks think, if we want to take this particular stretch and do it as an example, so we can see that, I guess, just to get the intention, would that suffice with everybody?
That's where I was heading with the idea of when I was suggesting our options. I think that, we know what we want. I think Sam, the idea of what we want, meaning that it's pushed back. So yeah, I don't know that you have to remark 18 locations, but this stretch is a good representation of what we want to see personally. Anybody else have a thought on that?
I would agree with that.
Okay,
So how about if we start with the Pulpus Road stretch and take it from there?
yeah. Will that save you some time, Sam?
Sure, yeah, no, and every little bit
Okay.
helps, so thank you.
All right, thanks. So we've got, the motion was approved to hold. So we've
Thank you
closed
all.
discussion. Thank you.
All right, take care.
You too. Is Isaiah on the line?
Yes, good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. All right, so this application is back. Has it changed since the last time we?
It's changed only so much as your requests, specifically the total square footage of the primary sign being under under the limit. And I think the simple solution was that was to just make it 16 inches instead of 18 inches in height.
Okay. And on my screen, it's hard to read. The overall length is now,
The same as it was before.
which is that? Okay, 14. So
14
all right,
feet.
so we're at 20 square feet then. And then there's a second sign application as well for the back door. Is that?
Yeah, that's the existing protruding sign that's currently on the front that I would just move to the back.
Okay. Let's open it up. Mark, do you want to start?
Mr. Chair, Mark had to
Yeah.
leave.
Okay, well then we won't wait for him. Paul?
I have no comments. It's fine.
Okay, Ben?
You know, I think if it meets the guidelines, then I think we're satisfied. You know, I really don't especially like that huge billboard on the front of this historic building personally, but I don't think if it meets the guidelines, I don't know what we can do about it.
Okay, Kevin?
I have a question. Is a projecting sign moving to the back or is it staying in the front?
The projecting sign would be removed from the front altogether, and the sign that is currently projecting would become a flush mounted wall sign in the back, but not
Okay.
a projecting sign in the back. You had suggested keeping it a projecting sign in the back, which I wouldn't mind doing, except for that there's just no space in the back, given how close the building is to the curb, and people would be basically, you know, walking into the sign. I just couldn't find a place to make it work as a projecting sign.
Okay. Well, I appreciate there only being one sign on the front. I think that the reduction in it really is a distinction without a difference, I guess. I don't think personally that the sign should be any longer than it is at Cumbies, and I think you're 3 to 4 feet too long. I'm just hard pressed to have this sign be 14 feet where Cumberland Farms is 10 feet. And it's on such a small building, and that reduction that close to the road is not going to affect the readability at all. So I guess my preference would be to still take that down in size. That's just one point of view.
All right, yeah, Kevin, I think Ben said the same. I kind of agree, Isaiah. I would love to see this sign just feel in scale with that facade a little bit more if it's, and I don't think it's going to affect your readability or visibility in any way. I think it would just help the scale of the sign to that particular, you know, that
I can
piece
tell
of-
you that I did start with 10 feet, and I think I even proposed a photo of it. And honestly, it looks more out of scale. It looks just funny. It's like a stubby, short sign in the middle of this big, broad facade. So the the goal, I mean, look how big the Cumberland signs are. They're like at least 2 feet high. They have a huge amount of square footage, and you know, I'm dealing with the window above and the window below, so mine's going to be already 16 inches. In terms of appropriate scale, I was trying to make it look as you know, proportional as possible. So I think I thought 10 foot looked bad, and we went to 12 and it still looked short, and then 14 looked like made sense for a quarter board type sign. That Cumberland sign right there, the way I just superimposed it, goes over the window. Again, mine isn't 2 feet high. It's now 16 inches. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I respectfully don't agree.
On this, if whoever's controlling the screen at the moment, if you scroll down just a little bit, is that the 10-foot sign?
No, that's
Okay.
not. That's a very bad, you know, stretched image that is not proportional at all.
Okay, that doesn't have the image. Okay. I mean, I think we all like the quarter board approach, and it's just really a matter of getting the scale of it feel right on that building, which is arguably an iconic elevation right there on the street. It's an old building that's
so reducing it from 18 inches to 16 inches, and then from 14 feet from 10 feet, I would argue completely affects the legibility of the sign, because you're taking a third of the sign off. So all the letters, all logo, everything has to be shrunk down to fit within the 10 foot. And it is very small on the facade of the building. It starts to become hard to read. I mean,
what's the width of this elevation? Just curious, just to make sure that we are seeing this in the right scale. Do you know what the corner board dimension?
I don't remember exactly, but it's I believe just over 20 feet, maybe almost 20, just under 25. I measured it at one point, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But I can certainly find, remeasure and let you know.
Okay, so Esmeralda, do we have technically 2 applications before us, or just one?
Sorry, we just have one.
Okay. So we would theoretically need 2, one for the back wall, because I haven't heard any conversation or concerns about the sign on the back moving to the back. So am I right in reading the board that there's no concerns with moving the projecting sign around to the back?
Correct.
Okay. So it's really just a question of size on this. Would somebody like to make a motion then? We've all sort of got the same concern, it seems. We have a motion to hold
I have
for
another question. What are you showing as height of the letters in your proposal? Do we know?
I don't know exactly, 8 to 10 inches, given the size of the sign. And I don't think everybody shared the concern. I think actually a couple people said that since it's conforming to all the requirements, it's not inappropriate.
Okay, I think that was Ben that said that. So you could be correct in that. I don't believe Mark or Paul had a specific concern, but in any event, semantics aside, let's figure out what motion we can put forth here.
Well, is it a question of personal opinion, or is it a question of conforming to the requirements?
Scale, appropriate scale is within our purview, and that's definitely, especially on historic buildings, that's sort of our one of our main priorities here. So the guidelines are there to set limits, but they're not necessarily there to grant blanket approvals. So that we're trying to just make sure we put something up that once it's built, it's easy to make a modification. It's a lot easier to look at paper than to ask you to remake a sign. So, but I'm listening to
I'll
the
make a
board.
motion to hold for a reduction in size of the corner board.
How
All right,
about 12 feet?
I'm not in a negotiating mood. I need to see it properly scaled. It's a historic building. It's, everybody drives by it. It looks like a billboard currently designed. It needs to be smaller. In my
I'm not trying to
opinion, it
negotiate.
sounds like
I'm just
our opinion
asking you what
matters.
it is you want to see, so I can not
Yeah.
go back and forth to multiple revisions from here.
Yeah, I mean, I think to make it easy for you, because we're not trying to make this difficult, I just think we want to get it right, is that it's pretty easy on a computer. What if you were to just say, here's a 12-foot, here's a 10-foot, we just look at it, we can say, okay, because we'd like to see the scale of it to make sure it fits the building. And that's really what I think everybody's concern is, that's raising a concern. So
I can do that. How about
Yeah.
the height of the letters? Is that an issue for someone?
I think if you reduce the width, you're probably going to reduce the height, perhaps, just because you're going to need, you're going to end up with white space. I'm just imagining how this would shrink. In other words, if you just width and leave the height the same, you're just cutting off shorter. I'm not sure that would, but you can kind of play with that as you.
So there's no hard and fast rule on the letter height as long as it's proportional.
I think that's the key. Yeah, and keeping the logo being a 15% size of portion of this overall size. You've hit that with your design here, so keeping that in mind.
I mean, at 10 feet, I'll just reiterate, because I did mock it up. It looks like a stubby, it doesn't even look like a reasonable size quarter board. It looks like, I mean, it becomes borderline illegible under that window. It is very small on the sides of this facade. But of course, I'll have it mocked up at 10 and 12 and bring it back to you.
Second Ben's motion.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Kevin, are you in favor of that?
Aye.
Okay, Ben,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
okay, I am as well. Thanks, Isaiah. I appreciate you working through this with.
Thank you.
All right, we have one more location to look at, and that's Jason Bridges is the applicant for 30 Sparks Ave. Is Sign here on the line? Is anybody here on the line to represent this?
They're here.
Hi.
Oh, great.
Hi, this is, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Would you introduce us
Okay.
to this?
Yes, we have two applications for the second shop. As you know, they have a small sign on the side now. However, they'd like to update their signage so that you can tell that it benefits Fairwinds, which a lot of people don't know. So the new signs they're requesting kind of plays off the already approved Fairwinds signage. So they're asking for one in the front. I'm not sure, this looks like the smaller application, and then one in the back. So there will be two.
And this is, in the front, there's an existing approved sign, correct?
On the side of it, I have a picture further down. It looks like this is the second application. But on the first application, I have a picture of the already approved quarter board on the side.
Okay, and is it going in the same location, same size as the approved sign?
Nope, the quarter board they have now is probably 6 by 36. It's very small. So they're looking to have a larger one on the front. I'm not sure where. Facing Stop and Shop next to Cumberland Farms. There should be two applications. This looks like the second one. So.
All right, let's look at that one.
Bear with me a minute. There was
Okay.
a little bit confusion when these applications came in, so I am searching for the other one. So bear with me.
All right.
Okay, if you need pictures, I have the one up too. I can share my screen.
Please do so.
Okay, give me a second here. How do I do that? How do I share my screen? Oh, here we go, share screen. Okay. Okay, so this is for, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
This is for the first sign they're looking for. It would go right here in the circled building. So the building behind Cumberland Farms. And this is a closer view of that circled image. And this is the quarter board they already have there. So this was approved. This is on the side of the building. This is not in the front.
Okay.
So these are, I'll show a picture of the sign on the building first, and then we can go back to those. But they're looking to have it right here. And the sizes for that sign would be a 96 inches by 15 inches, and that's a wall sign. So it's going right here, and here's a closer image of it.
Okay, can we zoom in? I think that when this sign first came in, the reason it was located on the side of the building was because of the sort of odd nature of the porch roof and where would be best to put a sign that that would fit and not look out of place. So
Okay.
It might be that it's best located replacing the other sign that was, went through this process once already. But Paul, or Kevin rather, do you want to start?
I wasn't familiar, I guess, with the last time this came around. I'm not sure what to add, I guess, if that's been approved. I might have more comments later, but I don't really have anything right now to add.
So this, just to be clear, this has not been approved. What we're looking at on the screen right now is not the location of the existing sign. The existing sign is currently on the side of the building facing the gas station.
Right. They're looking to update their signage because, one, they feel you can't really see clearly from this view, which you would not be able to tell. It is the second shop. And number two, they want to also make it clear that shopping there benefits Fairwinds, which you cannot tell from their first signage.
Right. No, I get that. I just want to make sure Kevin understood that what we're looking at isn't a replacement location. Mark, or excuse me, Mark's off the line. Ben?
Yeah, I'm fine with the design of the sign. If can we scroll down to that page just below this one? Yeah, here we go. I think there is something funky about that location. I'm almost wondering if it would be better centered on that picture window to the right. That's not under the porch. Yeah, because that's 8 feet. It looks like it's a notation. So I don't know. But there's something about that location because the porch isn't centered. Something's not right. But so I think the sign itself is fine. I think it's just finding the right location on that facade is the trick. But if you said it's 15 inches tall, it's not going to fit on that beam. That porch beam would be a nice tidy spot, but it's not going to fit. This is too big, I think.
May I make a comment, or
Yeah.
is that okay?
Yeah.
The reason that we put it in that specific location, as you can see from this picture, is that you cannot see it above the window, even though I do agree it would look nice there. It's just you cannot see it from the road if you're looking, which is the whole point of the sign. And we could move it over like the door here, but again, the thought process for that was the telephone poles in the way kind of thing. So that was our thinking process behind the location where we put it at.
Yeah, maybe it should be centered over the second floor left side window or something, some way to try to find the center of it or something, but there's something wrong about that location. Or no, I don't know. I think the sign is good. I think it's just finding the right location on that elevation is the trick.
Okay, Paul?
I understand. Let me ask the question. Is there an existing sign here? The one we're looking at right now?
No.
No, okay, that's the one that's on the sidewall. I agree that if we move it to the left, it's not visible, as was just explained. Could it go down over the door porch? Underneath,
As suspended sign, right? And then there would have to be some kind of a planter or something that eliminated the head banging concept.
yeah, is it too big to go on the facade there underneath the gutter?
Yeah, I think it would be big. But what about like maybe centering it in between this archway here, like this porch overlook?
Yeah,
I don't know if that would look more proportional.
Right.
Right. And then it would be off center of the window above it, but it would be centered on the porch roof.
Right.
which is the focus you want to give it.
Yeah. It's funny, after having the conversation with Isaiah saying it's a little too big, it's now this one's almost, if doing that, I wonder if this one would feel a little too small or if it would be, it's just sort of, I'm concerned with how this gable will look, but we could take a crack at it, ask you just to move it over, let us see it. I agree with Paul. I thought that hanging it as a suspended sign would be sort of the easy answer, but it would create walkway issues. But I'm also trying to think about whether we really don't allow wall signs above porch roofs unless it's for a second story business. With a few, like the few exceptions would be Kitty Murtaugh's, who their argument was that their offices were located upstairs. So it was, they satisfied I don't know. We want to find the right place for it and have it look good at the same time.
Am I allowed to make a comment too?
Yeah,
To reply to those.
Yeah.
So we made it the size that it is because it would be smaller than Cumberland Farms, which obviously that sign is very big and it's a much smaller building and much smaller business. And then putting it underneath the roof, I just feel perhaps you won't really see it at all. And then at that point, then what's the point of a sign kind of thing? And then might as well put it on the side, which you can't see either from the side, from the front. So I hear what you're saying with the putting it underneath. But I think in terms of being visible, and maybe it makes sense above. But I can also ask if they have offices in the front, in the top. If that's
All
a
right.
requirement.
We'll hope so.
If they might.
So, all right. Well, it sounds like there's not a consensus to vote for an approval on this application. It is. So do we want to do a hold for revisions and let you go back and maybe mock up a few? Just move it around a little bit. You could show us more than one option perhaps so that we don't go back and forth. But
Sure, like I can definitely do that. But so like is that in terms of the sign itself, is visually, is it okay? Is there any feedback?
were there any concerns with the designs, colors, or content?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, it sounds like everybody's okay with that. So in the back,
I would suggest, Chris, that they mock it up and put it centered on the roof line to the right.
Okay.
To the right of where it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if it doesn't, since it's easy to move on the computer, again, maybe if it
Right.
doesn't present to you, show us, just move it around a few different places. It doesn't hurt for us to have options to look at because that will speed along the review process.
Okay.
And in the back, any concerns on the back? We haven't heard anything about it.
No.
Existing, so, okay. Do we want to make a motion for approval on the back wall sign?
So moved.
So, second,
Okay, Kevin, are you in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Paul,
aye.
Ben,
Aye.
and I am as well. Okay. So,
Okay. Thank you.
great, thanks. All right, that gets us through the agenda with the enforcement. Paul, you had sent the email of the sign, the sales flags
On Water Street.
on Water Street.
Esmeralda wrote back and said she'll be on it.
I did, and I actually sent a letter, a courtesy letter.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want me to show you? Or do you
No,
want me to email it to you? But I did follow through, and I did send it and postmarked it yesterday.
Thank you.
you want another one this morning?
Send them my way and I will take care of them. And I found the checklist, so I will be doing that.
I'm just gonna tell you about this one. It's a store called Roasted on Orange Street. And I don't know what, oh wait, I do know it. It's 159 Orange. And it's a new owner, same sign is out there, but they now are flying a big open flag.
Mm.
And they probably don't know that that's
They
not.
they also just put a couple uplights in the bottom, some solar uplights.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, if you want to send me the picture, you definitely, I will also be on that.
Okay, I'll get a picture.
Thank you.
And I think just procedurally, let's not, preliminary discussions should be limited to people like the Garden Club or, Film Festival, people that want to introduce us to a concept as opposed to somebody that wants to put an actual sign.
Got it.
before.
Understood.
Yeah, I think that'll just gum it up.
Okay.
I'd probably move those to the end of the agenda too, so the applicants get.
I agree. Him getting first dibs seems a little awkward as well. But yeah, let's put preliminary review at the end of the agenda.
Okay.
Well, before enforcement. Leave enforcement.
Okay.
Any other discussion or motions that anybody wants?
A motion to adjourn.
Thanks, Ben. We have a
Second.
second. Kevin, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Ben,
Aye.
Paul,
Hi,
and me as well. Thank you. Thanks, Esmeralda.
thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.